Hello, beautiful sunny day today out there, isn't it? I'm not really in a very good mood today. I almost wasn't going to make this video, and I don't really want to like that much, so I don't know why I am, but I am. So anyway, if I haven't been prepared, I might have to walk you through some tabs. Google Docs, there we go. Here is the details of something really dodgy that happened to me. And I'm going to share the story because I'm feeling really vulnerable, worried and scared about my situation, and it really sucks. So I'll position myself in the bottom corner and read this view. It's a factual narrative of passport theft on the 8th of the 8th 25 from the Lodge Rehab, Signet Q-Stoke Hospital, Weston-super-Mare. After taking my evening medication, which makes me feel quite drowsy, I fell asleep with my jeans on top of my bed. There's two ons there, on top of my duvet on the night of the 7th of the 8th 25. I keep a small quartz crystal in my pocket. There you go. That's what it looks like, because I'm a massive hippie and a magician, a wizard, and mixed race alien. But yeah, so I carry it every day, my passport. Where am I? Quartz crystal, which I reached in to retrieve shortly after waking up. I always keep my passport in my pocket on the right hand side. I carry it every day. When I reached deep into my pocket, my passport came out too, so it ended up being left on my bed when I went downstairs to get coffee and breakfast. During the morning meeting, which started at 10 AM, I was asked by the maintenance team and a support worker if I would consent to staff entering my room to check the flushes were working on the toilets. I gave my consent. Following the meeting, several service users went on Section 17 leave from the hospital. When one service user in particular, who I shall not name, returned from leave, I was sitting over my lunch at the far end of the dining room. With a smile, he offered me some takeaway food, which he said I probably wouldn't want, as he knew I was a vegetarian, which seemed a little remiss. I noticed he'd had his hair cut in a very unusual manner, having a full head of floppy hair. I didn't really understand why he'd got a skin fade, just like my own, see it there, but left a very unusual flop of floppy hair remaining. After lunch, I went and sat in the lounge between around 12 and about 10 to 1. I got up from the sofa to go and collect another cup of coffee. When I returned, my passport, which I thought was in my room and which I normally always carry in the front right pocket of my jeans, had just appeared on the sofa where I'd been sat, it should say. I was alarmed and confused and said, what the fuck's going on here? Like, where's this come from? Thinking it should be in my room, and if for any reason not in my pocket, as it always has been, literally ever since I got it. This is why the gold print on the front was faded on a new passport, as I always religiously keep it in my right hand side pocket of my jeans, which have very deep pockets. I thought there was no way that I could have possibly fallen out onto the sofa as I stood up without me noticing. As I started to become suspicious, two people sitting in the room both left quickly without passing comment. I phoned the passport office, it should say, who informed me that the document is still valid and that they did not have any way to check on their system if it had been used for fraudulent purposes or verification during the time between around 6 AM when I last remembered seeing the passport in my bedroom on my bed, and just before 1 PM when it surreptitiously appeared where I'd been sitting. This is verifiable from CCTV footage. I'm almost certain this will show a third party placing the passport onto the sofa to make me think I'd potentially misplaced it myself by accident. When the evening meal was served at 5 PM, the chap with the unusual haircut sat similar to my own didn't attend when I was provided with metal cutlery. We all enjoyed a chicken curry. I wouldn't have had chicken curry, they didn't give me vegetarian curry, so I did eat some meat the other day, which I didn't feel that great about. While we had he had Nutella sandwiches and left into the communal areas, potentially fearing persecution, knowing that I'd been vocally stating my confusion and suspicion about my passport appearing on the sofa. This is verifiable from CCTV footage. Guilt, fears, persecution. As soon as I found my passport, where I'd been sitting on the sofa, one of the service users who'd been sitting in the room with me went directly into the multi-faith quiet room with the staff member who had escorted the maintenance team to survey the bathrooms. He, Signet staff member, was sitting next to the person who'd left the room when my suspicion was raised using the laptop, where they may have been using the passport details. Here's some corroborating evidence and extra factors to take into consideration. How would anyone know my passport wasn't about my person? Signet staff do observations on an hourly basis whereby they open a door and quickly look into a bedroom to see that a patient is fit and well and present. In addition to this, there's also a staff member who goes around about 5 minutes to 10 a.m. To round everyone up for the morning meeting and encourage them to attend. It may have been at this point that my black passport was seen starkly visible on the top of my blue patterned IKEA duvet cover and blue sheet. As there's CCTV covering the room, if there was a motive to obtain my passport for a nefarious, that should say, or sinister purpose, they would be captured on the CCTV. So it may be the case potentially that this was what prompted the maintenance team to conduct the test of the flushes on the toilets, knowing I would be distracted consulting with my peers and the staff in the morning meeting. They've just started providing real coffee as well, so I was quite a good high chance I was going to be there. Which is my idea, actually. Why was the haircut so relevant? As I'm 39 years of age, my fringe has considerably receded, as you can see if I look to the side. There really ain't a lot there. And with my hair being thin and only partially covering the top of my head, hence why I often wear a baseball cap. The other service user, who is considerably younger than me, who arrived back in time for me to be eating my lunch shortly after 12 p.m, had a skin fade on like the sides of his head, identical to my own, but had been wearing a brown baseball cap which obscured the rest of his hair. To ask for a haircut to completely remove his fringe and thin out his hair to look exactly like my own would have been too obvious. But with the addition of the baseball cap, he could have presented my stolen passport as identification whilst wearing the hat, which would have achieved the aim of making him look more similar to myself in my passport photo document, as well as not making himself conspicuous. My looking like he'd had a ridiculous haircut to remove his entire fringe in order to look exactly like me, therefore heightening suspicions. Having said this, it does still appear to be a ridiculous haircut, with the greatest of respect to the guy. Why the wait for me to be sitting in the lounge in the presence of other service users to return the passport? If the potential thieves had gone back into my room to place the passport where they would expect me to remember it to have been, on my bed, then they would have been captured on CCTV. And in the event that I'd stuck my hand in my pocket and realised that my passport was missing in the meantime, I would have raised the alarm and become suspicious. So it does make proportionate and reasonable sense to logically assume that if the passport had been stolen for fraudulent or illegal purposes by virtue of misrepresentation, it would have needed to have been planted in a location which would have plausible deniability for it having accidentally slipped from my jeans pocket. The reason I was so surprised is that I'm wearing a pair of G-style raw jeans with very deep pockets and only ever keep the passport in the front right pocket. So it was just logistically almost impossible that it could have fallen from my front pocket whilst I was sitting on the sofa to right underneath my bottom, where it appeared as I re-entered the room. The thieves had not wanted to be captured on CCTV replacing the passport to its original location in my room, in case I realised before the passport had been returned home, and triggered an internal investigation. Logical counter-arguments for this hypothesis to be flawed debunked. It may have been regulation and routine for staff to check flushes on the toilets every Friday, and they may even have paperwork to back this up, which could very easily have been fabricated to insulate Signet Q-Stoke Hospital from prosecution. However, as my room was unlocked, anyone could have entered the room whilst I was absent, so the theory is still perfectly plausible. May have been totally innocent for the service users to have gone on Section 17 leave as soon as the meeting finished. However, a person wanting to utilise a photo ID would have needed to have been in a location with amenities such as travel agents or banks should they wish to have misused the passport. It would have been only available to verify online if these service users had remained at the hospital, and so still the hypothesis does not become irrational or disproportionate. This is doubly reinforced by the following stipulation regarding haircut, which makes his hair look identical to my haircut when viewed wearing a cap. The extremely odd looking haircut could have been requested of the chap's own volition. However, as he was wearing a baseball cap, it does still perfectly fit the narrative of him attempting to make himself appear similar to me in my passport photo. I had a beard in the photo, which he also does, so it still fits. The service user may have been uncomfortable with my suspicion and emotional reaction and totally innocently left the room. However, I watched the staff member in question escort the maintenance team to my bedroom, so if hypothetically he, the Signet staff member, had initiated the theft and recruited a service user to replace the passport to appear as though it had impossibly slipped from my jeans, he was then returning for advice as the plan hadn't worked and I had noticed. Still perfectly fits with the hypothesis. I'm just going to contact the police to ask that CCTV footage of the service users who left to go into Western Supermare can be matched with their descriptions to verify their whereabouts, and Apple taxis to be contacted to verify the licence plate number of the vehicle which dropped the service user in question into Western Centre, along with Signet's internal review of their CCTV, which apparently cannot happen until Monday. Unfortunately, I've just shared the call handler's log number. Please don't inundate him with calls. The 9 people that watch this. Following our recent phone call, and I've said that I'll provide a statement in person to the officers visiting the hospital, and will also visit an open police station to provide a corroborating report in person as soon as I'm able. I've also expressed that I feel that the main suspect is of good character and may be acting under duress from a third party. God, that was arduous, wasn't it? So that's that. I wrote that today. I've just had a cheese and onion pasty, and I just felt shit and bored and really dejected. So just gonna end this video now. Lots of love. Bye bye.